Hi, can you hear? Hi, Tara.
Hi, everyone. Yes, we can.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay, so we should start, right? Yep. Okay, recording everything. Welcome, everyone, in person and online and on YouTube, now and in the future, I guess, to the CB4 Waterfront Parks and Environment October meeting. MCB4 has adopted a hybrid meeting policy whereby we will meet both in person and virtually. All community board committee meetings will require an in-person quorum to come to order and conduct business. Board members are expected to attend meetings in person unless they have a disability or an extraordinary circumstance as defined by the New York State Open Meetings Law. Excused committee members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually. Committee members who are joining via Zoom must leave their cameras on. We encourage members of the public to join virtually. The MCB4 hybrid policy can also be found on our website. Tonight's meeting is still being recorded and is currently live streaming on YouTube. So thank you to the members who are here. I just want to make a note. As of now, we do not have quorum. So as we move forward, we can write letters and we can form letters, but if we don't have quorum, they would have to go to full board. Correct, Jesse? That how we do it would be kind of a recommendation that goes to full board.
Yeah, you have a consensus tonight and then a letter. I would say at this point, if you want to put something new, you can put it in front of the exec, and then that would go to full board.
There's your quorum.
Okay,
Almost.
almost.
What do we need? One
How
more?
many we need? One?
It was 15.
Hey, Brad.
Committee is-
No, that's more than that.
Yeah. So we were just saying that we don't have quorum right now, Brad, but we will, any business we'll still write letters and then go full board and see how that works. But so we're gonna start with the and Marty, I think is I just want to mention he's en route. He's gonna get on Zoom shortly, but he will be here. And he apologizes that he's a little late. So the first thing on our agenda is something that we have, talked about on and off for a few years, the cruise ship terminal. I guess Tara's here from EDC. Tara, you're the one that's going to present? Or no?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, for some reason my camera on my computer is not working, so I'm doing this double feature. I'm joined tonight by Sutir Putran, who is a colleague of mine, who many of you know from our asset management team on the cruise portfolio. So I will be running through the majority of the presentation, but both of us are here tonight to answer any questions.
Thank you. So the reason why we call EDC back right now, we know this is ongoing. We've been talking with them for years about shore power. Is recently they came out with a press release announcing. Well, there's a few. I think there were 6 points, renegotiation points with the major cruise line, but. One of them is shore power by 2028 at the West Side Terminal. And there were a few other things that are very interesting. So they're going to go over the press release and all the new agreements that all the new agreements that they come to, and I guess just to keep us up to speed. So if you guys are ready, I guess you can go over that and take it away, and then we'll have questions and comments after. Can you hear us? No, maybe not.
Great, can you hear us?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. We good to run through this presentation? Or can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Wonderful.
Oh, we can't see your screen. We can't see your screen. We can see you.
Are you sharing your screen?
I should be. Just give me 2 seconds. Great, how about now?
There we go. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much. And oops, sorry, we're skipping over. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. And thank you for inviting us to tonight's meeting. As mentioned, the reason why we're here is to go over the long-term cruise agreements, which were recently announced just a couple weeks ago. So to start off with a quick overview of the cruise industry in Manhattan and New York City at large, The cruise industry is obviously had to take a halt during the pandemic, but it was really coming back, which is something that we're excited to see. The cruise industry overall serves 30 million passengers globally, and in New York City has an average around 1.1 million passengers. And despite having undergone severe economic losses during the pandemic shutdown, we are very excited to see the cruise industry bouncing back and see this as a really big part of us coming back, recovering from the pandemic and bringing tourism back to the city. So in 2023 alone, the cruise industry is estimated to create an economic impact of $420 million, which accounts for all spending that happens from tourists coming into the city, people staying in the hotels, the salaries that are supported by the cruise industry, and generally how the cruise industry really plays a big role in spending and job support throughout the city. So what the cruise long-term agreements do is it allows cruise lines to have guaranteed berthing space at the cruise terminals. So traditionally what happens is Ports America, who is our operator at the cruise terminals in New York City, will release a calendar for the year, and cruise lines will sign up for the preferred dates and spaces for berthing their ships. A long-term agreement is beneficial to a cruise line because it does give them guaranteed space so that they don't have to go through that process, and they have guaranteed access to operating out of one of the most desirable cities in the world. But it is really beneficial to the city as well because it is a way that we can make sure we have commitments from the cruise lines to support some of our major goals and priorities for the city. So in many ways, it's a way for the city to partner with the cruise industry in a way that incentivizes them to come to New York City while also making sure that we are getting what we want from the cruise lines. So within this agreement, we're very excited in how this achieves our priorities related to guaranteeing certain levels of passenger volumes, which means guaranteeing levels of tourism, or at least economic returns from that tourism level. But also committing to emissions reductions, supporting local vendor sourcing, establishing educational partnerships, supporting workforce development, and providing financial contributions to a community development fund. So double clicking into those elements a little bit more, what we mean by emissions reductions is making sure that the cruise lines are committing to shore power in the way that we want to. And of course, as we know, currently in Manhattan, shore power is not available just yet. We are in the process of studying the feasibility for shore power to come to the cruise terminal. And after that, we'll be working on implementing that. But within our long-term agreements, we are making sure that these three major cruise lines, so that's Carnival, MSC, and Norwegian Cruise Lines, are committing to retrofitting their vessels, to making sure that new builds are shore power connected, so that as soon as we have shore power availability at the terminal, those cruise lines have already committed to connecting. So we won't have any concerns of that not happening. In terms of educational partnerships, we have the cruise lines committing to be attending annual career fairs and annual networking, and really committing to hiring locally and making sure that these opportunities in the cruise industry are well known among New Yorkers and among our communities. The next thing is local provisioning. So we really want to make sure that our local businesses are benefiting from the opportunities coming out of the cruise industry. So that's making sure that the cruise lines will contract with MWBEs, will be getting their floral arrangements or food sources or whatever that may be from local businesses as much as possible. And the last part, which is we're particularly excited about, is having the cruise lines commit to paying $1 per each passenger into a community fund.
That's
So I'll just skip ahead a little bit real quick to talk about what this fund will look like. So the community fund will be managed by EDC. So that is at the end of each year, we work with the cruise lines to count how many passengers they had over the entire year. and they give that dollar amount to us for us to have in an account. We're currently working with council members Aviles and Botcher, both of whom are the council members with cruise terminals in their district, on configuring what this community fund will look like, what the governance structure is, what the, what types of projects are a priority for the community, what's the appropriate distribution and timing. But this is something that we really do want to make sure that we are working closely with the community to form, and so that these funds are going where the community wants them to be. So those funds will be collected and distributed proportionally. So for 2024, we are expecting there to be around 700,000 passengers going through Manhattan Cruise Terminal, which would amount to $700,000. And at Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, that would be 400,000 passengers, meaning $400,000. So this amount will vary year to year, especially as passengers come through. Currently, MSC's Meraviglia boat, which has a huge portion of passengers coming through, coming out of or is docking in Brooklyn, but has plans to go over to Manhattan. So that will change the amounts a little bit, but these are projections for the coming year. So that is the overview of the long-term agreements and what we are prioritizing them, those new elements about them. And yeah, I would love to open it up to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna let the committee ask some questions first, but I just wanted to, I thought there was there were 6 agreement points. The transportation one, I just want to see that
Yes, apologies. That is not in this slide right here. This is just a double click on the local benefits. But when it comes to transportation, we know that obviously as a result of the passengers coming through, there are different modes of transportation coming in, whether that's personal vehicles or buses. And so as part of these agreements, we are also having the cruise lines commit to creating and providing surveys for their passengers on what types of modes that they'll be taking, on what is their original destination and final destination, and being able to provide that data to us, which will inform us on our traffic planning around the cruise terminals.
Okay, great. And I'm sure our transportation committee will be very interested in that as well. Because in our district, that's a lot, of the West Side Highway there and the on-ramp and off-ramp. But thank you so much for those bullet points. I think our committee specifically is very encouraged by this, since we have been writing letters and pushing shore power and saying how important it is. And at the beginning, everyone was kind of a shrug, and now it looks like, I'll let everyone ask questions and I'll talk about the 2028 date at the end, but thank you for this. This is at least a step in the right direction, a big step in the right direction. And I think we are very, very excited about the community priority fund, because I think that's an acknowledgement of all this dirty air and pollution that has really been affecting the immediate neighborhood. And when I say immediate neighborhood, I'm talking that Hell's Kitchen area right there, and maybe a little outwards. So thank you so much for recognizing that as well. But I'm going to open it up to the committee. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions or comments. Is anyone? Raul?
I certainly do.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Tara and Surya, thank you for not only attending this meeting, but giving us the tour last week. I found it to be fantastic, and I learned quite a bit about it. Thank you. I am curious about your presentation right now, Tara. Some of the figures that you, or some of the things that you said. What happened? One of the points you mentioned in this long-term agreement is that the cruise ships guarantee a certain level of passenger volumes. What happens, or what's the impact if they don't produce those volumes of passengers that they're guaranteeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as a mechanism of these agreements, for us to make sure that the cruise lines are upholding their end of the bargain when it comes to these elements of their agreement is that if they meet all of these, they receive an incentive fee. And what that means is that it's, a specific rate around the cost associated with berthing at the cruise terminals, and that is something that's in their favor. If they don't meet any of these points, whether that's not meeting the level of passenger volume that they've committed to, or if they're not contributing to the community fund, for example, that is when those incentive fees are rescinded. And I know Sudhir is also on the line, so Sudhir, feel free to jump in if there's anything else to add there.
Yes, absolutely. So if the minimum guarantee numbers are not met by the cruise lines, they're also subject to what is known as a shortfall. So they have to make up the difference by paying giving us those public tariff rates. So it's in their best interest to either meet it or surpass it, which is normally the case that cruise lines always surpass their minimum guarantee passenger counts that they provide us.
Okay, so in other words, you guys are guaranteed that revenue, whether or not those volumes actually come to pass.
Correct. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. Another question I had, I was curious by the projections on the ships, on the ship calls. You're estimating or forecasting $1.1 million between Manhattan and Brooklyn, 700,000 to Manhattan, 400,000 to Brooklyn, based on 235 ship calls in Manhattan and 67 ship calls in Brooklyn. The percentages are off there. There are a lot more ship calls to Manhattan. I count 78%, and yet only 700,000 in revenue. Which is what? That comes out to less than like 65%. Why that difference of like 15 percentage points against Manhattan and in favor of Brooklyn?
Yeah, and the reason for that is because right now, as I mentioned earlier, MSC, whose boat Meraviglia is the largest that is docking, I believe, at the cruise terminals, has a large portion of that. So currently that is docking in Brooklyn, whereas Manhattan, you see slightly smaller or fewer passengers because of the size of those boats. Which is why there's like such a high portion, even though there are fewer ship calls, all those MSC dockings are contributing to a larger proportion of passengers moving through Brooklyn currently. So that's why and since MSC will be docking in Brooklyn for all of 2024, that's why those projections are such. I believe it's 2025, 2026. So you're correct me if I'm wrong, but MSC will be moving over to Manhattan cruise terminal, and so when that happens, you will see those funds and passenger volumes shift.
Thank you for that clarification.
Is it that?
On the emissions reduction, on a sort of similar question about what happened, like what's the enforcement mechanism, if there is one, to make sure the cruise terminals are actually using the shore power that's available to them? I know you're saying if they're operationally feasible. I'm just wondering if you could maybe define what that is. And is there some penalty if they don't use it, or how do we make sure that, that they're actually using the power that's there?
For sure. So operationally feasible does have a bit of a wide definition when, obviously when if the ship or if shore power is not available, it cannot connect. So that is one instance. The other instances are that, sometimes shore power is obviously available and the ship can connect, but say it's a really hot day and the grid is already being overloaded because everyone has their ACs on. Connecting shore power may impose a great burden on the grid and would cause the grid to shut, or the electricity supply to shut down. That's one instance where perhaps it would be deemed operationally infeasible for that to happen. Or sometimes there's certain wave conditions or weather conditions that will make it unsafe to connect. In those instances, shore power is, it is operation feasible. So, there are the instances of it just not being available at the time. There's also instances where even if there is a supply and a possibility to connect, that it still is not always able to happen. Currently, at least in Brooklyn, that case has not happened that much. Shore power has, for the ships that are shore power equipped, we have a rate of 70% in terms of connections for this year. But there are occasionally times when that is not possible.
And then just a follow-up, in one of the bullet points, I think it talked about retrofitting some of the cruise ships. So that would happen prior to 2028, before shore power is installed. Is that, but there was also another goal of like 2035 or something. So I'm just wondering the retrofitting timeline and what that would entail.
Yeah, Sudhir, can you speak to that in a little bit more detail?
Sure. First of all, the cruise lines are very interested in connecting. And just to make a point here, we have a vessel that's coming at the end of the month into Brooklyn, and she is going to reposition the vessel during the late hours to make sure that doesn't impede into the ferry operations, which means the bow of the ship is going to project into the basin a little bit so that she can line up with our shore power system where she can take in shore power during the evening hours and will disconnect during the AM and move back, which comes with a lot of expense to the vessel, is because they have to call in linesmen, which is part of the labor union, and that comes with a very high cost to the vessel. So cruise lines are committed to connecting. With regards to the retrofit, most of the 60% of the vessels are almost there, and about 30% or so will be retrofitted in the coming years. Come 2028, we will be having these conversations leading up to this deadline with cruise lines to make sure that vessels that are retrofitted are the only ones, or that have shore power capability, are the only ones making their way into New York. And as and when we start planning and developing our shore power connectivities, we will be keeping all these factors, hence the need for the feasibility study that's going to deep dive into where the hatches are located, what kind of energy is needed for what kind of vessel, what kind of engines they're running. We're doing all those deep dive studies just to make sure that we are very agile and proactive in making sure once our goal once 2028 approaches and we are able to deploy shore power into Manhattan, that the vessels that are coming into Manhattan have no difficulty connecting to our shore power. Also, we're factoring into some of those, the technology is evolving. Plus, the big consideration is the drain on the grid. So our vendors are having those conversations with Con Ed to see how much they can support without disrupting any of the power grid requirements for the community that it's going to draw from, and what that's going to look like. Plus, during bad weather, like when there is like heavy downpour, it's kind of risky to connect high energized cable into the vessel. But if the technology is at a place where we have plugs, currently it needs to be like really bolted into the vessel. There's like 6 huge leads that go into the ship. If there are easy couplings that can be easily attached and detached without any risk, we are exploring that options as well. So everyone is really committed.
Thank you.
Follow up on that, just to ask, is EDC measuring that with the cruise companies? Is this something that someone is retaining data on for accountability purposes?
I'm sorry, just to make sure I understood the question. Is it that are we tracking those instances, or sorry, I didn't hear.
My apologies. Just to build up what Matt was saying, is there anyone tracking the uses of shore power versus the uses of traditional fossil fuel burning? power for the cruise ships? Is that something that is tracked by the companies? Is it being tracked by EDC? Is it not being tracked at all?
I can
We
take that.
track, oh, sure, go ahead.
So the vessels that are coming now, already the environment EPA has certain guidelines for vessels coming into, even if they're not connecting to shore power, there is something known as ECA, it's emission-free area. Once they are within 3 nautical miles of a US territory, they need to switch to a fuel called MGO, which is 0.1% sulfur. So that sulfur emission, also known as SOx emission, is already lowered by virtue of them switching to this high-grade low sulfur oil. And also when the ships are within those 12 nautical miles, they're not allowed to incinerate, which means no burning is allowed. They're not allowed to discharge, which means they're not polluting our ocean with any, even if the water, the bilge water or the oil water is treated, they're still not allowed to do any dumping once they're inside the nautical miles. And most of the ships now have what is known as exhaust gas cleaning system, also known as the scrubbing system, which kind of further scrubs the emission that is coming out of the smokestack, which further reduces by 50%. And all this is noted on the logbook on the bridge of the vessel, which is very strictly controlled and audited by US Coast Guard and our United States Public Health when they do quarterly and annual checks. And it is like, it's published and those reports are published. So it's a very stringent audit purpose. Even if there's an accidental small spill, the cruise lines have to follow a strict protocol of reporting to the Coast Guard, etc. So there are very tight controls already in place. And the cruise lines themselves are looking into different technology, like the likes of synthetic fuel. I think there's also like some biofuels they're exploring, and also tier 2 engines that are also reducing emissions. So yeah, there's a lot of technology and audits already in place besides shore power. But shore power takes it a step further and further reduces the complete emission that happens, and the ships can totally turn down their diesel generators while they are at port.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, there will be public reports that will indicate whether or not ships are making use of shore power.
Correct. So on our website, we're going to kind of indicate, we already started doing that for the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. We are kind of making, like if you go into the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal and you see the cruise schedule, it'll indicate if a ship is capable and if it's compatible with our Brooklyn. So we have some limitation because it was the first and it was custom built designed for specific cruise lines, and the ships need to position accurately to be able to connect to the mobile positioning device. But we are already showing those, indicating that on our website. But yes, we will do that same for Manhattan as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I don't know if they figured it out. I'm just curious if anybody knows. When we first started getting into this whole thing, one of the problems that came out quickly, and it's also happened with the car ones, is that they didn't have the different companies did not have compatibility as to the plugging system between the shore and the ship. You know, somebody wanted to put on a certain kind of plug and somebody else wanted to put on another, and I don't know if they ever got that sorted out.
So I think an EDC can, I believe, and Tara, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I believe that that's the problem in Brooklyn right now.
Okay.
They have like one plug, right? Or the placement of like one plug, and different ships have different plug areas.
Yeah.
But I believe they're going to account for that where we are in Manhattan, right, Tara?
That's right. So Brooklyn was the first cruise terminal on the East Coast to get shore power. So when we built it with, the ships that were docking there in mind. The difference is that right now we have, for example, the MSC Meraviglia ship, which is massive and the current shore power connection cannot reach, so we're in the process of acquiring the appropriate infrastructure to make sure that it can. Part of at least the study that we're doing at MCT is again around the feasibility, and so we will be obviously building that infrastructure with the industry in mind. So we are working with the leading engineer that has installed shore power in California and a lot of the cruise terminals that are often looked to as being very advanced and up to date in terms of shore power. So we're confident that in this process we won't be incurring any of those issues at Manhattan.
Okay, I just didn't want them picked out by legislators,
Anyone else? Brad, and Roland.
When does the $1 a passenger expire? So can it be up to 2? Is this a 20-year deal? How long is the deal for?
Sorry about my video. I'm having again a lot of issues today. So each cruise long-term agreement does have slightly different years depending on each cruise line. Generally, these are between like 10 to 15 base years with multiple years extensions. So for as long as these long-term agreements are in effect, we are getting that commitment out of the cruise line. So that will be $1 per passenger from all the cruise lines, to the extent of what their agreement is for. But there are provisions within each agreement that allows for that to be extended, and these agreements are something that is beneficial for the cruise line. So we are confident that this is something that we will be seeing for the foreseeable future. So Beard, if you have any more information to elaborate on that, feel free.
Yes, absolutely. And as and when every term is extended by either the cruise lines or by EDC, as long as the cruise lines don't default or don't keep up their side of the bargain, the dollar will increase 50 cents every term year. So after like the initial term, say Carnival has an initial term of 3 years, when that expires and they want to extend to the next phase, it'll go up another 50 cents.
So you built in an escalation.
Yes.
And that escalation, so it's a 10-year deal, if you go to $1.50. And
Correct.
that's different, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And yeah.
I'm sorry. I've got a question about the power. So yes, it's coming from Con Ed, but we keep asking, we're an environmental committee. Can some of this money or what EDC is doing with their money intake from the cruise ships go into green energy, wave power, solar power, anything we could use that river for to offset some of this? I mean, we have a pool of money now, maybe it's an opportunity to try.
Yeah, and EDC is very involved in the offshore wind development specifically. So we are very committed to clean energy sources, and also see that as a huge part of our economic development as well. So we can't, obviously we don't control the grid, so we can't exactly direct where the power is coming from, but we're certainly working to be building out the offshore wind industry for New York City and New York State, and are strongly supporting that transition.
Sarah, I'm all for that. What we're talking about is the river, right? This is the power. We're getting polluted in our neighborhood. We want something here. So how can we write this into what you guys are doing? Pilot program, a 15-year look at getting power from the river. I agree there's going to be windmills out on Long Island. What are we doing right outside our neighborhood? And I'm not hearing it.
I'm sorry, I think the sound cut out a little bit. Was your question around how to get the clean energy here exactly? I'm sorry if I misheard a little bit of that.
I'd like to use the Hudson River stuff for some offset for power. Wave generation, rotor in the sand generation, there's a lot of stuff going on that could bring power that would help offset the shore power. And I want it to come from out in Long Island or off of Brooklyn, but we want something in our river, right there in our backyard. We're the ones getting polluted. So what can we do to address that? This is a fantastic plan. We've been talking about it forever. We appreciate it, but like our job is to push it a little bit, and I'm not hearing anything. Martin, are you hearing anything? I'm not hearing anything that's related to what we need in our backyard. My other point is, we have, call it now, 700,000 people crossing the 4-lane highway. It's a cluster F. It's a disaster. It boggles up our whole west side of our lives and our highway. Okay, there needs to be plans in EDC on how to get the people across. There's no guards out there. There's no transportation. They line up on the corners. It's a disaster. I don't hear anything regarding how this is being handled and who's handling it. We brought it up many times, and it's only going to have more people coming in. So I'm all for the cruise ships, but I don't hear anything about this. Nothing's being addressed. And when I hear words like, I wrote it down for my contracts, what was the word? I think you brought it up. If it's convenient, it's a scary word in the contract. I mean, I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna steal it, but I'm not hearing anything, Tara, for the next step. And we would like to know. And the other thing, I'm worried about, how's that money gonna be set out? All right, all of a sudden, it's gonna go not to where we need it, it's gonna go for, who knows?
And not only that, Tara, but I know, Raul, you had your hand up, and I have some questions also. I just wanted to.
Can they address my?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry, Terry, just if you want to answer Brad's comments and questions, please.
I apologize. I think there's a lot of audio issues. So I don't think I quite caught all of that. What I did hear a little bit of was like, why isn't the shore power timeline expedited? Do I have that right?
No.
Sorry, I think I'm not sure if I'm the only one having audio here, but the sound is kind of coming in.
It might be the fact that Brad's so far away from
Do you want
Mike.
me to-
You want to
I'm
summarize?
just gonna summarize, Tara. I think there were two things. The first one you got right when Brad was talking about using the natural powers of the Hudson River in our backyard to then produce green energies in our backyard. But I think you got that point. I think his second point was the West Side Highway is, to say it the least, is an impediment for passengers coming off those ships and people coming off those ships. The transportation, the directional, where they're going, it's just as he said, a cluster. I'm quoting Brad.
They're walking out with their stuff, they don't know where to go, there's not even signs.
So, you know what,
There's
Cheryl?
nothing.
If you can address that, but I will, maybe we can forward, we actually did a capstone, or CB4 did a capstone group with NYU just specifically on this. And they did address, the onboarding and offboarding of people going to the cruise ships and how the signage and the public transportation, there really wasn't an infrastructure to support all these people coming and going. And maybe we could share that with you. I don't know if there was any great relations, but we can.
Got it, yeah. No,
Meantime.
absolutely, that would be.
Sorry.
Yeah, of course. No. Thank you for that summary, and I apologize that I didn't hear that the first time around. Yes, so I definitely hear you on the need for expedition of clean energies and finding those sources, and I completely agree with you. To the extent that we can, that is something that we are trying to do. And as I said, when it comes to shore power, this is a long-term planning process. Obviously, all agencies are kind of reckoning with this of how do we make sure that this clean transition happens in a way that still maintains, equitable electric rates, make sure that we're not polluting more, overloading the grid as we move towards electrification. A lot of these things are happening very fast and very slow, and there are a lot of overlapping planning timelines, which is why, a big part of this feasibility study, I think, is to make sure that we have a good understanding of what we need to make sure that when we're installing this, it's doing so at a rate that supports the community and supports New York City overall. To the point on transportation, I definitely hear you. And I think, making sure that we have a systemic way of getting a lot of this transportation data is a huge part. We are also, at EDC, currently, we've been studying the traffic impacts at Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, and we have plans to do that in Manhattan too. I would certainly love to see this report that was already done so that, we're not replicating any efforts that have been done already and can hopefully build off of that. But, we are definitely with you in finding ways to better improve our transit management system and making sure that, we're promoting public transportation, that we have safe embarking and disembarking, and that is a huge priority for us as well.
And I guess that's going to be part of, you didn't really touch upon it that much today, but that's one of the major parts of the agreement, is the transportation part of it, right? Is the new transportation infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. So getting that information on, what types of vehicles people are taking, where are they coming from? If there's, certain ways that we can perhaps help the cruise lines develop certain bus routes or something that will be picking up passengers where they're coming from to then drop them off where they need to go, that sort of thing. So that is something that we're certainly prioritizing.
This is very disturbing. I'm just saying, they have thousands of people. It's like letting an airport off and then say, go walk to the sidewalk. That's what's happening. They wash their hands of the whole thing. They pull in and they say, go ahead, go for a walk. Just walk. There's no plan. This is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's a disaster. They're making gazillion dollars. We have no plan. I hear no plan. It's just not acceptable. And this isn't gonna wait 8 years. And we just heard they're doing a traffic study in Brooklyn. Why isn't the one being here? This one's even busier. Doesn't make any sense. It's not right. I don't need to yell because everyone can't hear me. So I'm not yelling. Sorry. So I think it's a real problem.
To follow up on Brad's point, Tara, you talk about this transportation part of it, and I know obviously there's a study going on, which I'll ask you about the shore power. Is there a study going on for the transportation component of it, or is that?
For transportation at Manhattan Cruise Terminal, we don't have an active study going on right now. I believe we have done studies of this previously. I do need to double check on that to be up to speed on when was the last time we did it. But currently, I do want to clarify though that these long-term agreements are not necessarily adding more passengers or more traffic. I mean, as MSC moves over, that will be a significant change in the passenger counts coming through. And so that is really something that we're thinking of in terms of that transportation planning aspect. But I do want to clarify that these agreements are not necessarily adding additional cruise calls or additional traffic coming through. It, in many ways, is more just having a systemic mechanism in place that does have is an agreement between the cruise lines and the city on what standards to meet, but it's not necessarily adding traffic. Again, the thing that will be a change will be when MSC does move over, but we are in the process of preparing for that through our studies.
Because I think we would, and if we write a letter, that we would be interested in a study here as well. And I understand that the council member in Brooklyn is pushing this. I was there in Red Hook a few weeks ago, and I understand she's pushing it. So maybe that's why you're kind of starting the study there. But we have been talking about this for years, and it's just important, if not, I don't want to say more important. I'm not going to, throw our Brooklyn friends under the ship. But as important here because we have the big west side highway.
But there's two things. Temporary things can be done. We got a way to study. If they just stood there and watched them come off, there's the study. They don't know where to go. There's no plans. There's no bridge going over. And I don't want that community fund going for that. Right? That should be part of the infrastructure. It's an airport. And it needs to have the infrastructure to support it. And right now, there's none. And we've been waiting and waiting. And thank God we've been asking for this dollar since I've been on the board. Can we get a dollar? Can we get a dollar? And now we are. That's amazing. But this is nothing. And I would like to write in there that we would like to work with Con Ed and EDC for a pilot program to get some green energy out of our Hudson River. Why can't that be written in there? And I don't get it. And by the way, they're adding another 300,000 people, it's talking about 1 million people coming across on a sidewalk that's 6 feet wide. I know 4-lane highway, it's actually more than 4 lanes.
We'll get you our,
I mean, right now, they could have
We have-
easily, they could have little buses like they do when they get off the ferry and take them right out. They don't have that.
yeah,
They have nothing.
we have so Capstone addressed this, our Capstone study.
But those are college students. This is the EDC.
I agree. I agree, but we could send you, Tara, what they came up with, and then we can go from there.
Thank
We should
you. Yeah,
perhaps- Another point of view to Brad's point. Tara and Sudhir, you guys need to be talking to your financial risk managers. Because I see a liability, a big liability here. I hadn't seen it from Brad's point of view, but. I mean, what happens if 1 or 2 or a group of passengers get run over in the West Side Highway? And their lawyers say, hey, who are we gonna sue for this? EDC is gonna be number 1 on that list or number 2
Well,
on
I
that
mean,
list.
in fairness, in fairness, they have been cruise ships there since the 30s, I think. I mean, millions and millions, and this is, I don't know if we can get into that part of it. I mean, I think we can ask them and address it. I don't know if it'll go in a letter, but.
I would love more cruise ships, more boats. I think it's great. We just need more planning.
They don't want to bring them in to Manhattan though.
But they are. They're
Yeah,
bringing the biggest ship in the world in.
well, no, they are not doing it on a regular basis. They can't, it doesn't fit and the
It's
main
just that
problem.
they're doing it.
No, they can fit at least 3 cruise ships at a time. There's 3 slips there, there's 3 and sometimes all 3 are lined up there, sometimes there's 1 or 2. Except for COVID, there's still a continuing stream of huge cruise ships coming into the Manhattan cruise terminal.
Well,
Leslie, there's someone in the public that has a
Yeah.
hand raised. So
I got one more last thing, because I always
Yeah.
throw it out there. It would be great for the zip codes that are in that area that are getting polluted, that get a deal to get on a cruise ship. I want to put that out there.
I like that.
All right,
Anyone, well, I have some.
Okay.
I don't
Anyone
know
else?
if it happened.
Anyone else? No? Okay, I just have a few questions. One, when does the $1 per person start?
So the $1 fee is collected usually in the second quarter of each year. That will be after we get the full passenger counts from the previous year. So in the upcoming months, we'll be working with council members Botcher and Aviles on aligning on what priority projects are there for the community, what is the appropriate governance structure for this. So we will, that will be a multi-month process, but
I mean,
it will
when does it start charging the cruise ship? What is it for 2023? At the end of 2023, this fund starts, getting.
Yes, yeah.
money? Okay.
Yes.
So this is pretty good. Okay, thank you. And to Brad's point, I have this written down too. And this is also, I'm saying this for the record, just so we could get it in our letter. This money has to be for the immediate community, like I'm talking, Hell's Kitchen, the people who have been directly affected by this pollution. And also, to the point that and we will talk with our council member about this and whoever EDC has the purse strings. If there's gonna be a project that Hell's Kitchen needs, right? We don't want, electeds or EDC to say, well, guess what? You know what? They have this money. This is extra money. This is money on top of everything else that is included in the city budget. Does that make sense? Like, we don't want this money to be in place of, this is in addition to.
Yeah,
Which, and I think that could be that's gonna be a very slippery slope I foresee moving forward. That, the EDC money is building, what's the, DeWitt Clinton is right there or something. So Parks is gonna do something in Chelsea. This is an addition to, but we're gonna make that clear, I think, as we continue down this road. Does that make sense, Tara?
yes.
Okay, also, can you tell us where, the 2028 date came from?
Yeah, so this is, so you can speak a little bit more to the specifics around this, but these 2028 and 2035 dates are keeping in mind what the international standards are, which I understand is, that's where the bar is, but we want to go above and beyond that. And also taking into consideration the timelines that will unfold once we get this shore power study back as well. So is there anything else, I guess, that you can add to?
No, that's correct. That came out of the CLIA reporting. CLIA is like the Cruise Line Association that about 260 cruise ships are part of, and most of the cruise lines are part of, and they're committed to shore power and what have you. So we kind of mirror that and made it closer, or even increase the bar a little bit higher. So they're 2035 is when they're looking to have all the vessels, but we are seeing the European sector is moving even quicker, and then we wanted to stay in line with that. So that's where the 2028 date year came for us, and we want to, and all the major cruise lines are committed to that. And during our conversation, during the negotiation, they've expressed that they probably will be in line even sooner than that, with all the vessels coming to New York. Yeah,
Right, because
they didn't see any issues with that, and they were, okay with those timelines.
Okay, thank you for that, because I understand Ports of America told us when we were on the tour that they are expected to undergo a big renovation. I believe it was on the Pier 88, was it? Or was it 90, Pier 88? They're doing their big multi-million renovation on the apron there, which they said is going to include infrastructure. So two things. One, can you update at another meeting, or can you update us on all of that when that is planning to take place and all that renovation there?
Yes,
Number one.
absolutely. Yeah, and to clarify, so that is Pier 90's apron extension, and we certainly will return with Ports America to present what those plans are in the coming months.
That would be great. And because when they told us, they said that that's going to be, obviously the infrastructure will be fitted for the renovation for shore power. So I'm expecting that's going to be done much sooner than 2028. So the only component then would be EDC and Con Ed getting it there. So I'm hopeful it'll be quicker if they're going to have it there to plug in, that we can match them.
Is that feasible? Are they gonna be ready? Ports of America, are they gonna be ready for 2028?
Oh, they're gonna be ready before then. They're doing a big apron, right, Tara? What the big apron renovation, at least at one of the ports, right? At one of the piers.
That's right. So they are working on renovations for the apron extension at Pier 90, and then obviously parallel to that, we have our shore power study going on. So we have intentions on coming back and being able to speak and present on the shore power study, and TBD on whether we'll be able to speak to both of those things together separately, but we certainly want to be coming back to the community board to talk about both of those projects.
Great. And when is the shore power study expected to be completed?
We're expecting it this year. Again, I don't have more specifics on that timeline than yet, but by the end of this year, or early next year.
And that's the Jacobs Consulting one?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, and obviously you'll come back with us, we'll be very interested to know that study, right? The results of that
Yes.
study?
Yes.
Okay, I think everything else is like little things that we can kind of follow up on email. I know there's someone in the public. Oh, yeah, Brad, go ahead.
Has there been any talk about having a casino boat there? Is that in any of these deals?
I don't believe so. Sudhir, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, what was the question again?
There's a question.
Sarah?
If there's been any talk of a casino boat there, offshore boat.
No, none that is to my attention. So not currently, no casino boats.
Okay.
So there's nothing in these deals that could say they could just sit there and park and be a full-time casino.
So
No.
once the ships are into the 12 nautical miles, they got to turn the casino off. The casino has to go off. But is that the question?
That's not what I'm saying.
No, I think
Guys to give them a license to have a casino boat there. That's what I'm asking.
no,
I understand.
none of these are
That's
casino
the
boats.
laws that go 3 miles out. What I'm saying is, has there been any talk or in this agreement, is there the ability for them to say, we're gonna have, if we get a license, to have a boat there, a casino boat? Like permanently, no? Yes, they do it all the rest of the country. Yeah. In Indiana, they undo the rope and the boat just stays there. I'm serious.
We can talk to our
Yeah, that's
council members about that, because there is
It's
talking.
an agreement, and they're making these agreements, it'd be nice to know that there could be this out.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something worth another discussion.
Coast Guard can tell you too.
I'm
So
sorry.
I can say
Coast
with
Guard.
confidence that the cruise ships casinos are not on once they're into the US territory. They're not allowed, they're not permitted, the casinos are shut down. That is a fact.
Sudhir, I think he was asking about the possibility of a dock, permanent, I guess, one there. But I think there's someone from the public who has been patiently waiting.
Yeah, he put his hand down, but Michael, if you want to ask a question, you can just raise your hand. And I'll bring you over. Yep, there we go. All right.
Come on down, Michael.
You just have to unmute Michael.
Hi, Michael.
On mute?
No, we can hear you, but you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go.
I just want to say I appreciate the vibrant discussion and all the work the committee does. This is my first Waterfront and Parks meeting. I really appreciate the gentleman in the backs. Passion and vibrancy. I think that we have a lot of work to do. I just came from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and it's just really brilliant to see what good policy and urban infrastructure looks like. You get on your bike, you get in a car, you get on the bus, you walk, and you're just meditating. I think we can probably close down.
Michael, I'm sorry, do you have a question for EDC though?
Is when you say the fuel changes within a certain amount of nautical miles, who regulates that? Like how do we know that happens?
It's a MARPOL and a fixed requirement, and most of the ships have automatic alert system, and the ship defaults changes the fuel tanks, and they make a notation on the bridge log, which gets audited by the US Coast Guard and the public health. It is very strict. It is a very strict logbook that gets maintained, and they have, just like an airline, there is also a black box on board the vessel that kind of records everything, all the control maneuvers that happen on the bridge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Michael. I hope you like your first WPE meeting. I think that's it. I thank you guys, and like Earl said, I also thank you for the tour. And I don't think I'm out of line by saying, we have been talking to EDC about this for years, pushing this. And, Tara, you've been so great. If we can follow up with you on anything, I do have to say, sit here. You have been so knowledgeable. I think this is probably one of the best EDC like reps we've ever gotten, because every time we talk about this, no one knows what shore power is, right? I mean, Jesse, or they have to go back and come back. So you have, I think you're very well versed in this, and we appreciate that very, very much. And I want to put that on the record as well, because we don't want to lose you if we have more questions. But if anyone wants to make a motion to write a letter, I would suggest before the motion is made that we've written a lot, not a lot, we've written one or two letters on shore power, but maybe we write a letter updating what now these new agreements are kind of have put forward, and our concerns about them, some things that Brad was mentioning, some things that we're expecting from these new agreements, and the points. I don't know if anyone wants to make a motion to do that. Or Marty, I'm sorry, Marty, our co-chair is on. Do you have anything to say about this? I didn't mean to.
Marty, do you hear us?
Marty, have you heard the meeting?
Yeah, we're talking to you.
I did hear it. My takeaway of the conversation that I just heard was that we have two infrastructure asks that should be part of any letter, and that's the transportation ask and requesting adequate power. The idea that power will get shut down 70% of the time. They have Power Connect in Brooklyn. That struck me as not enough time to be connected. So there are some concerns that should be in a letter, I think. Was that the question you asked me?
Yeah, just if you have anything, but if anyone wants to make a motion, please do so, and we can write a letter.
I'd also like to see accounting for the money that they get.
Yeah, we could. She's asking that because she cannot make the motion.
I can't make the motion. I'm gonna write the letter.
Write this letter.
Tina, do you want to write the letter? No, I'm just kidding. Does anyone second that motion? Thank you. So, we will write the letter.
Well, it's like a vote.
Oh, let's take a vote. I was gonna put the bullets.
Oh, okay, sure, that's fine. I just wasn't sure if we were like moving on.
No, we will write the letter of some of the concerns that were made about transportation, the money, the fund, what Brad mentioned about the disembarking and embarking, and a few other things. I think we're good.
Well, also the issue on being on EDC meeting or being able to provide shore power by 2028.
Yeah, that's
Because
it.
the ships are gonna be ready, is EDC gonna be ready? Right.
Well, hopefully I'll put in before 2028, but yes.
But it's not just providing the shore power, it's providing adequate
Connection.
there has to be sufficient power, and on the hot days, it shouldn't be shut off. That's exactly when you need it, because those generators are really going to be polluting our neighborhood in those days. So I don't understand why Con Ed can't provide adequate power to shore power.
I think that's what is that what the study is gonna tell us here?
That isn't what I heard in the conversation, though.
So what we're trying to make sure that there is enough, the power that is going, the energy that's going to be used for the cruise ships does not impact the locals that are using so we're going to make sure there's enough. So we are like very strategic in how the vessels are coming, and how many ships, like Brooklyn can only have one ship at a time. So that's why the shore power initially was put in Brooklyn, because it was like testing, it's going to be only one ship. Here we have to factor multiple ships. So, and some of the ships are bigger, some are smaller, and some of them have different voltage requirements and energy needs. And the technology has since evolved, where it is able to manipulate the necessary power factor that is needed for the vessel to turn their generators off. And that is what we are working to see if we can work within the available power that's going to come through the grid and be able to, provide shore power to the vessels without causing any impact to the neighborhood.
Great, the neighborhood grid. Okay, great.
And our goal is to have 100% connectivity when able. So that's what we're striving for.
24/7, 365.
You got it, sir.
Yes, that's what I heard too. Okay, great. Can we have a vote on this?
Actually, let's slow our roll. I
Yeah.
remember, we mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, since we did that. We don't.
Oh, we don't have, that's right, we
quorum.
don't have a quorum.
So if we have a consensus,
That's right.
if then a new business letter is brought to the floor at full board, that's when it will.
Jesse, we're 15 in the committee.
We're 19 in the committee.
We are 19.
We are 19. This committee has more public members.
We have
More
3
public
public members.
So before EDC leaves, I was wondering if it would be possible to obtain a copy of that presentation so that Leslie could maybe cite that in the letter.
Yes, we'll share that after this.
Thanks, Tara. Okay, great. We can take a vote, but I will write the letter.
So you have to count the public members to determine all, like full members?
Public members are members of the committee. They have a vote.
Just not at the full board.
Yeah, they have a committee. EDC, thank you very much on this. We'll get back to you. There was a few things that we talked about also on our tour that we can get back to you offline. With too.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're terrific. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
the next topic is, so this is the West Side Task Force Triggers with Resiliency. This is going to be fairly quick, I hope. So this committee took this up, there was a member, Tom Fox, he came to our committee meeting, I believe in spring, informing us that there is a push and an ask from Hudson River Park Advisory Council calling for a task force to address resiliency, infrastructure, and environmental related challenges facing the future of the West Side. This coincided, if you guys remember, with our U.S. Army Corps of Engineers study and all that big letter we wrote about the tentatively selected plan, our problems with it, the plan we would rather have. At the time, the ask from the Hudson River Park Advisory Council included that there was some sort of resiliency or barriers in our district, which we as a board wrote that we are vehemently against. The reason why is because one of the plans that U.S. Army Corps of Engineers put forward was offshore barriers. More expensive, much more expensive, but much more effective and the way to go. So we were advised by environmental organizations that came that this is the one to push. This is what everyone's pushing, the offshore barriers, even though it wasn't their selected plan because of the cost. This is the one that will protect the most percentage of land and people, and B, while it's protecting the higher percentage, the most effective. So we were a little gun shy at contradicting ourselves by saying, well, we want offshore barrier studies here right in our district, while we're saying, no, we don't want offshore barriers in the Hudson. We want this, excuse me, offshore and offshore Hudson River barriers in our district. We want offshore infrastructure. But I think we can write a letter because we are, and anyone can chime in. I think we were generally supportive of a task force to look at this, right? Look at maybe a holistic change and including what Brad was talking about, the West Side Highway, and it would include traffic patterns and pedestrian patterns. But it would also address resiliency, And we talked about even maybe making the West Side Highway one day underground and having, expanding the whole Durham Park. So if there are no objections, and I would like to hear comments, I would suggest that we write a letter in support of the ask of the governor and the state of this, of convening this task force, putting together this task force. But at the same time, we want to make it very clear that we are not for any type of resiliency measures, at least physical infrastructure measures in our district and in our backyard when there are much better options. Much better options. I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that, or maybe they don't think that's appropriate, but I would love to hear what if anyone has any comment on it.
So we're gonna ask to form a committee.
So the Hudson River Park Advisory Council asked to form a committee. Certain organizations and community boards already kind of wrote letters to support that ask. So I guess we would ask too, we're supporting the ask of the advisory council, saying, we agree with this. These are some of our concerns.
Is that the board Lowell's on?
No,
Lowell was on.
Was on.
Yes.
but this is a. Was he that
Advisory
one?
council. I
Yeah,
don't know if he was.
no, he was on a different one.
He was on the board of the.
Hudson River Park.
Who's on it now?
I think,
It's not, so no, there's no one appointed from our district.
I think, Jeffrey's on it as the chair, because he signed the letter.
Well, there's a task force.
The advisory.
The advisory.
The advisory, not the board.
The
So
advisory.
there's a
Yeah.
seat open on the board, right?
Which is
That's
separate.
from our area, from
Yeah.
our district.
Not this.
It does
advisory.
not have to be a board member, to be clear. It could be anybody in the district.
Yeah, but this is a advisory council that's made up of a lot of some CB chairs. And they wrote a letter asking, it's literally a paragraph. I think it's a paragraph and a half saying, please look at this. We just want you to, consider the future and the future of the West Side, including resiliency infrastructure, environmental related challenges, those type of things. It was very vague, and I think that was one of our concerns when it came to us to begin with, like, well, what do you mean? Like, what is the task force? But I think in our letter, we could support the ask, but also we can also bullet point our specific interests and concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember when this was brought up, you were worried about us contradicting ourselves because we were on the record. But if you think that we can do it in a way in which our ask remains the same, and it seems like makes total sense to sign on.
Yeah, I think so, right? And we can, I think it's very important that we specifically point out that part.
Yeah.
Because that's a big part of the US Army Corps of Engineers plan that, when I say we and other environmental groups want to see, be as the selected plan, but I think we're many years down the road from that one. Does anyone else have any comment on this? Marty, you included? Are you okay with this? You're on mute.
I'm absolutely fine with it.
Okay, it's all, listen, it's all in the wording, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, using okay, I'll bring Arnold over. I was just gonna say that the CB1 and CB2 language, although they are resos and we don't write resos, some of that language.
Very
is
similar.
useful. Very similar.
Absolutely.
And I'll just say, historically, there was a task force like this back in the 90s and 80s, so it's not as though we're asking them to create something new, mysterious.
And also, as you're bringing over Arnold, Bob, just so the committee knows, I've been in contact with both CB2, CB1, we've been on Zooms talking about this. And obviously Battery Park City has much different concerns with their waterfront infrastructure than we do up here in Hell's Kitchen in Chelsea. But I think the ask can be, we can unite in the ask.
Yeah.
You hear me there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are two things here. When you guys, the Army Task Force was here, everybody was against the wall. And I talked to Bryce about things a bit afterwards. And I tried to talk to the committee, and it was a curious question I have, and I'll ask it now over here. The seawall is mainly being done for hurricanes, but as a side effect of it, it also protects against the river getting higher. And by 2100 or something like that, there's like a 50% or whatever possibility, the river rising by 2 feet. And without a wall on the Hudson over here, there's no protection at all. It's just gonna come right in. And it's gonna, what is it here? There are parts of 11th and 12th Avenue that are just gonna be,
Arnold, I'm sorry, Arnold, we can hear some of you. Do you mind just getting, it feels like you're going in and out, like
okay,
closer.
am I any better now?
Yeah, keep going, we'll see.
Okay, without a wall there, if the Hudson River rises by 2 feet, a lot of far west Chelsea is going to be underwater, not just for a few days of a hurricane, but forever. And I wonder how you guys are addressing that. It may not be part of this, but are you guys addressing that issue?
You mean a possible flooding of Chelsea with sea rise
The
levels?
possibility that the Hudson River is going to rise by 2 feet there's a 50% possibility by 2100. And without that wall, if you put the seawall in there, it's just going to rise and there is nothing protecting far west Chelsea. So how are you guys going to be addressing that as part of your plan?
So that's what it's not, so that's on our plan. It's the US Army Corps of Engineers this past year, last year actually, came out with a plan. Actually, they came out with 5 or 6 different ways to address sea water rise. And also what you're referring to is the wall that was suggested to go up along the West Side Highway in between that and the park. Is that what you're talking about? That was in one of the plans.
Yes.
There are other plans though, without that wall, that would also remedy the situation you're talking about that we have endorsed. And those are also US Army Corps of Engineer plans.
No, there aren't any U.S. Army Corps of Engineer plans that will address the rising of the Hudson River permanently, except for the kind of plans that you folks don't want. I've looked over the plans.
Okay, we can definitely take another look at it. I think maybe this was, they were talking about stormwater, so maybe, there's some truth in what you're saying, but we will take a look at it again. But I think we are on record that if there are better alternatives, we do not want a wall in between our park and our highway, our park and our residents. But we will take a look. Is there another question on this? Great, perfect, always, thank you. Since we don't have
Yeah, we got a consensus. If no one else was an issue.
okay, we have a consensus on that, everyone?
Yes.
Great, let's move on to the next, oh, great. Okay, I'm gonna pass this out. This is now, our statement of district needs and budget requests, and I know Jesse had something.
Just real quick before we move on, Shannon, did we ever get the report that was done? It was like a, I don't know, it was sort of a trial report of the, how to protect the art, I don't know, what do you call it? The,
Matthew Palmer.
well, no, the whole West Chelsea, the whole art.
Because they found it flooding significantly.
Remember the galleries, they were flooding in the basement, and had a lot of paintings and stuff being stored in the basement, and they were gonna do a pilot study maybe a year or 2 ago about how to prevent water going into galleries. Remember that?
Like a temporary fix, because the US Army Corps of Engineers is more of a long-term fix.
This was a study of like, it was a special study that was done. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Do you know who it was
You
done
remember it?
by?
You remember it. Yeah, it was a while ago, but we never really got a report back on it. Sure.
It looks like a city, I'm literally.
I think it pretty much was the city.
Yeah, it was a study
while
by
ago.
the city planning many years ago.
Yeah.
And they built in measures. The Department of Buildings has now put into effect. I know definitely for the building construction, they have to do certain changes in mechanicals that have to be elevated, and there's certain safeguards in place. And they studied exactly the west side and the gallery area.
Yeah.
And they're, as far as I understand, like things have been implemented.
Yeah, I mean, we have, at least in terms of Chelsea land use, the applications that come for, storm proofing and you know, either wet or dry proofing.
Yeah.
A little
Yeah.
different,
I'm
so.
wondering if we can get a hold of that report. I'm
Oh,
just
it's
curious.
right here. It's on the DCP website.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Or
resort,
if you want to send it to me, I'll send it around.
yeah.
Great,
Great.
great, thanks for finding that.
Okay, so what I just passed around is, that's just what parks, a priority for parks. Steve Simon sent that to us today. A lot of these are already on our ask. So what we're gonna do now is, many of you are familiar, but if you're not, just a quick overview. Every year, CB4 and the Budget Task Force goes over through the committee's asks over the year and the past years, actually, of our statement of district needs, which is the priorities we are setting as far as budget items and what is important to us and what we're hearing from the residents and the people who work here, and the people in our district. Jesse was good enough to send out, I think twice actually, a survey, a general survey to show people, to ask people, what are the top 3 things, what, you know, what is interests you the most? And that really forms our, will help form our general narrative. But now this is when we go into the budget task force, and every committee is doing this, or should be doing this. Going over our priorities as a committee as far as our budget asks. I don't know if you have, I sent this to everyone in an email about a month ago. About the, but I think you have it in the Dropbox, right, with the WPE asks. Or you have it up there
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I have the expense in the capital.
for WPE or the whole thing?
No, for W.
Okay, great. So if we want to go over this, I envision a lot of our asks to be kind of in the same place. We could kind of move around if we think something is more important this year or a little less important. And when I went back and I looked over all our discussions and our letters, there was only 2 things that I think could be new and incorporated. One was very new. It was a public bathroom ask for Penn South Playground. Because Penn South Playground, we thought it would be when they came recently, and actually it was last month, and Park showed us their plan. There was not a public bathroom that was included, and we thought this would be a perfect place, and it was in our letter for a public bathroom, considering this is gonna be a quote unquote destination playground for children with disabilities, that even if it was a standalone bathroom or a single or double use, that this would go in line with what we're generally asking is more public bathrooms anyway, which I think maybe it was ACES had a letter on it. When Borough President Mark Levine was kind of pushing for a general public bathroom ask, I believe we CB4 wrote a letter on it, not this committee. That's one new ask, and also, and this is if you guys deem this, I guess, appropriate. The Chelsea Dog Park, which took up a great deal of our time last year, but you know, by the way, I want to pat ourselves on the back because it's actually doing really well in its location right now. It's getting good use. More people than just that immediate Penn South area are using it. A lot of people from NYCHA are now coming down and using it, so it's been good. The one thing is that it's kind of just a gated off area. Do we want to, you know, put that into like, please make it a little dog run, you know, pave it, you know, do some water hookups, small dog, big dog area. We don't have to if we don't think that should be a priority ask, but it could be on our list. So those are the 2 new things. And these are capital, Jesse.
I was just gonna say, I mean, you guys are on record already for bathrooms, for new bathrooms and a number of playgrounds. So I think you could just
Put this on.
fold that right into it.
Yep.
Because it's a big request, and it's a sister request with this expense, because we know they can't put it in the bathroom without staffing, and we always say, okay, you gotta put staffing in, so they, you know, you can't just ask for one and ask without the other. So I just think as long as you're saying that, equaling that out and saying wanting staffing both also at Penn South and in the bathroom, then I think that you'll be fine.
So
But I don't think you have to worry about adding a new, unless you want to, but I just don't, you know, historically, you guys have just sort of put them all together.
Okay, I know, so.
Makes it easier for you all.
Yeah, we don't have another,
Right.
Item. another
Yeah,
item,
we can take out Matthews Palmer, which
Yeah.
is done.
exactly,
And just put in.
yeah. So this is a new one. The other ones I think are renovation, right? Our renovation of, does that make a difference?
What,
Our past ask for the bathroom, which I believe is number,
I'm Senator Capital.
yep. Number 3, excuse me, number 19 total, number 3 of our asks.
No, that's number 3 of the priority list.
Yes, of our priorities, correct. It's our third. So it's,
Hold on, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. I'll read it. It's, fund the renovation and construction. Okay, of DeWitt Clinton renovation, Matthew Palmer's, which
We
is,
take out.
we're taking out. Chelsea.
I'm sorry, where was it, number 19 capital?
It's under 19 under capital. That's what I have anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
How does that reconcile with this document?
This is just, now this is just from, this, we'll go over that later. This is just what Parks gave us, as, you know, this is what they want. A lot of it coincides with what we have been writing letters on anyway. But when we ask, we're like, hey, listen, like we do with education, we ask the schools, you know, we're doing our budget list. What is important to you? So this is what's important to
So
them.
I'm sorry, we're removing DeWitt Clinton and putting in.
No.
Matthew.
Matthew, sorry.
And it's out.
Yeah. And so,
Can you make that bigger? 125%.
Are you taking, should I be putting this stuff in? Or should you want me to be-
I'm taking this.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
Alright, so, right, and I'm doing
This
this.
is wacky thing on the bottom. I'm gonna, that's just weird.
Is there a shore power ask in there somewhere, Leslie?
Marty, shore power has been our number 1 ask for 3 years.
Yes.
Does the shore power ask include the power issue that we talked about tonight?
The what? The power?
The available power for ships so that it's actually there 365, 24/7.
That's something that is funded by, like, the grid capacity is funded by private utilities, so it would be Con Edison, they'd be responsible for. Like making the upgrades to the grid that would be necessary in order to support a more robust version of shore power. It's not clear to me that that is something that we can ask for from the city.
I completely agree with that confusion. I just wonder how we can work it in.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I do think that the whole description needs to be updated.
Yeah, I mean, are you looking at it right now, Marty?
No, I am not. I don't have it with me.
Okay, so, well, it's a pretty long description, lengthy description of our ask for the Manhattan Cruise Ship Terminal, to be connected. And obviously, now that they are planning to do so, but I would still, highly recommend we keep it at the top of our list, just to keep pushing it and show that, you know, this is a priority and it will continue to be. Brad, you had your hand up.
Well, we're making it number 1. We've been trying for years. They just came and said they're doing it.
Mhm.
So I think we can pick a new number 1.
I would like to hear what the committee says. I would recommend, until they do it, until it's done,
Well,
then.
it's kind of a waste of it till it's done. I mean, they said they have an agreement to get it done by 2028.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I will say this is what they're gonna, Brad is right, you're gonna keep this next year, they're gonna say.
And they will.
They're gonna say it's funded,
Funded.
Yeah.
right, so I'm just saying, if there is something else that is really a priority.
We can make a note that we want.
I do think it's a big.
We need a number 1. We need a new number 1.
Priority number 6 right now.
No, it's priority number 6
Overall, it was 3, actually, 2 years ago, CB4 made it priority number 3 out of all out of house everything, which was pretty good. What?
I think that's pretty, okay.
For the free?
I think, but
I think the drum was beat it. We've been beating it, and I was very excited to see today.
But aren't there some things, Brad, that you brought up, like getting over to the west?
I just don't think.
I think it's.
And those.
I don't know if that's number 1 anymore.
Right.
point is to still be
I think that's-
down
Yeah,
and say, hey, we need a transportation solution to this terminal.
you can say that
So-
for the description, you can say that you should
You know-
include a.
Sure, but I just wanna also, coincidentally, I'm also the chair of the budget task force. What is, and we did a Zoom with them, with Department of City Planning, and they were telling us, the more specific we are with our ask, the better it is. Like,
And
if
those
we
say,
lump,
big, small, miss small, that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna hear, yeah.
if
Like,
we
really
lump a whole
specific.
ton of stuff in it, they're gonna be like, whoa, which one, do you want a bridge, do you want the short? Do you want? So it should be very specific, each one, because then it's, it's easier for them to respond and allocate the funds. Go ahead, Robert.
Perhaps to Jesse's point about reworking the language, it might be the implementation of shore power that, you have this commitment, but the need is the specifics related to implementation. So it could include, meeting those particular benchmarks. It can also include, it could be a transportation ask or a sort of offloading ask, but the implementation itself might be appropriate. The other point that I don't fully disagree with Brad, it's just not clear to me that there is a particular priority on here that remains more pressing than the shore power question. I mean, if there is, and if there's a case that someone would like to make for another one of the capital items, I'm certainly not opposed to that.
I'm gonna change that, we want some green power in the Hudson River that relates to the shore power,
But we don't, okay, so another thing is,
that's very specific.
yes, but we cannot we can't put an ask in here that we have not voted on or have a letter on.
Well, you
For the most.
But you will. You're
You're gonna write the letter, you got the new one.
You can't
We'll put
make
it
a
in the
motion
thing.
and someone made it.
Yeah.
I think
But I don't think it's
the
gonna.
point was about,
I don't think it's gonna be voted on, but I don't think that should be our number one. I mean, anyway, let's see what everyone says. Go ahead, Roberta, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
okay, no, I interpreted what Brad said and what you said differently. Jesse is saying that we could then advocate for, basically homegrown, clean energy, if we wanted to, because we're including it in this ask. Yeah.
Assuming that it gets voted on at the November.
And because I also think we should be specific, like, if we really do wanna do that, I think we should have people come.
Yes.
Tell us what the options are, what is a real project that could be done in the Hudson River. I know, but we could get someone to present
Yeah,
them.
I think my other concern is, and I know I harped on the transportation part of that thing, but I also don't want our number one ask to help visitors. I want our local ask to be our number one. I mean, it's a big priority one, and I agree, but I think the power thing and the green power could be our new ask related to this. I think.
I think Leslie's right in the sense that I think if you want to be more specific in your request, I think you're gonna get a vague answer. If we put in a big thing.
So we just say, I'll throw out one. We'd like a pilot program for green energy based on the Hudson River in our neighborhood. Very specific. We call it pilot, they can respond, if it's an agency. I mean, that's the Bloomberg one. We're doing a pilot. Everything's pilot.
Yeah, I agree with you, I just think we need more committee discussion on what that is.
Yeah, I think we need to have like a meeting on that.
Yeah, no, I think.
I agree with you.
Let's get them
Yeah.
to come and say.
Oh, yeah, that's like.
I don't disagree with you, I just don't think it's for this year.
From the East River, and I spoke to him, he's like, yeah, we could do the turbine in the water, and he came
Yes.
there. And I wanted to shoot him, he's like, we can't do it at
We
all.
can't do it here.
I mean, I was like, what are you doing?
I remember.
I think like to Roberta's point, like the implementation, the project description, I think is a good way to go. I mean, it could reflect largely what the letter is
Yeah.
that we're putting together anyway.
And also just when we're looking overall, for this to be, it was number 3 once and number 6, last year, that's a pretty big CB4 like endorsement. That, this was agreed upon, right? I mean, by a vast majority, not just environmental people or WPE members, that this was a priority or important enough to shoot up there to the top. And I would like to protect that a little bit. I really would. And if we dilute that, I think some of our other, I would like to keep it to the top. That would be Marty, do you have any,
I absolutely think you're right. I would not like to see it removed from the top. That we had a presentation that said they're doing it is very exciting. But I don't want to take it off the top until we know they're doing it, until they're much further along, until we're convinced they're committed.
okay, why don't we keep going? If there's something else that we think have, we'll shoot to the top. So our second,
Before you move
Yeah.
on, are you going to include in the description Brad's concerns about transportation?
no,
Not at all.
no, it's not, this is an environmental shore power ask. If we say transport, that's not even our committee. So the more specific we get, the better it is.
Good.
And so, not saying that's not, but if we, we can't, for instance, if we say, if there was a study or there was a presentation, we say, you know what, we want to overpass a bridge, I'm sure transportation will take it up. We were on 47th Street, we want to that's a very specific ask, and then it would be put in. But to say, we want shore power, and by the way, can you help people get there to the, it's not, it might be. Yeah, it's a little bit.
All right.
Okay, yeah, next one is, so this has been a long time ask, and, for some reason, DeWitt Clinton Park, though it is
It's number one.
number one on parks, and it's number one on.
Anyway,
What's it?
is this listed in their priority?
Yes,
Number one?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
yeah. That's a good question, actually. I can find out too. But they always put, I have it from last year, I think they always put DeWitt Clinton very high. Because for some reason DeWitt Clinton has not gotten a lot of love. And it needs a lot of upgrades and renovations. And then we see,
But either way, you guys you're compatible, right?
yes,
You're somewhere on the same page as Parks.
yeah. So, why don't we just go through these real quick, and we'll see if we can pop in the new 2 ones, which we already did. We put bathrooms into the bathroom. The third one, go ahead.
No, I'm just making sure we're going down our list.
Our list, I'm
Okay.
sorry,
Yeah.
WP list. Our third ask that we connected with transportation was the electric vehicle chargers, which, as we wrote another letter, actually we wrote 2 letters on it this past year. Nothing has moved with the city on any type of lot, multi-vehicle area. I'm not talking curbside, we're very specific here, something where we can charge up, nothing. So I would think that would stay, not in that position, but it would stay in general, definitely, because that's getting more and more urgent. On a side note, I did, were you on the email to Chelsea Piers? When we were talking about the Chelsea Piers renegotiation, when Chelsea Piers came, they renegotiated their lease, I think it's a new 7-year lease. We, the board, WP, asked for them to put in electric chargers in their parking areas. Because it would be somewhere off, out of the way, people can go and charge, open to the public. They just updated us and saying they are doing that, and we're gonna we're gonna know more by the end of the year, and it's a they'll update on us. So that's up to the city. The city, we also want them responsible. The next is
Before you move forward,
sure.
I'm having a little bit trouble with your spreadsheet. I noticed that you have tabs down there for the different committees. And your column A is referencing, I guess, the ranking for the
You're gonna
board.
freeze the top column.
No, what I was hoping if you could add is a new column that says what the ranking is for WPE.
This is if you can just imagine, this is your priority order.
One is
Oh, okay.
I sent this out, and it says 3, which is WPE's third ask, 19 total. You should have gotten that when I wasn't here, I sent out this
I did not,
okay.
but I also didn't get the QR code to get in.
Yeah, right. So we're lucky you're here.
So what number, I'm sorry, what number are we on?
So we're going after we're going to number 3 on our ask,
Yeah,
which is the fully fund the bathroom. I'm sorry. Number 3, which is 4 on our ask, is fully fund the bathrooms.
Okay,
And
We've already-
we're adding Pensat, we're replacing Mappy.
right, okay, so now we're moving.
Correct. The next one is repair the Bloomberg playground sidewalk. The next one after that, is renovate. Yes, renovate the playground, McCaffrey. Next was separate, like I said, it's very good to be specific. Now, this is the dog run at DeWitt Clinton. Needs to be renovated. Gertrude Kelly Playground.
I'm sorry, I had something, we had
Yes.
the curbside recycling. Are we?
So.
Well, that's not a-
DOT wrote, the agency agrees with this request for this sidewalk. Not parks.
Because DOT is responsible for funding the sidewalk.
That's what I'm saying. And so I'm saying that response was from DOT.
But it went to Department, it says right here, Department.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The
It's like
second
a park.
two.
It should be going to DOT.
I think parks are responsible for sidewalks adjacent to
Their parks,
their parks.
because remember when they just recently did,
So
And on 17th, I think.
yeah, they just did the new with the bricks.
typically what happens is that the agency such as NYCHA or the park sends a priority list to DOT. To review the work. And that's how it works. So that's why you're still sending it to the agency. That's, even though they're not the one to do the work. You want them to put that list, that on the priority list. So I'm sorry, just jumping back to the.
I think this was
sanitation,
an ACE's ask.
This was a mistake. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Though we do have, I think we do have right now.
Oh, you know why I
sanitation,
did
but
this?
we're not doing
That's
it
why
yet this
that's,
year.
yeah, that's what I did.
We were talking about-
I moved all of this, so we might run into this problem, this issue later on, is that I moved all of sanitation because you guys are shifting over. So
Yes, so we're gonna start with
So to
next.
be aware of it. Okay.
Yeah, because ACES is the one that's heard sanitation this whole year. We haven't written letters.
Okay, well, I just want to be careful. Well, then we just have to
Oh,
be.
so we're putting that on ours.
Well,
Oh, okay.
I just want us to be careful, then we just want to make sure we don't lose sanitation in there if we're
Yeah.
not making it. Okay.
So after the jog run to DeWitt Clinton is Gertrude Kelly. And then really that's it. Then we go into continued services and we're just talking about right now, capital. We can go over what Parks asked, or we can, go ahead, Brad.
I'd like to add a new one that
Sure.
Marty and I were talking about. Let's be real specific. Let's pick a park and say, we want solar lighting in this park.
I think we should,
Let's be really specific, because Steve said, hey, it's not us. It's so ridiculous for them, and I feel bad for Steve, that they can't do it. It's everywhere. It's literally all over the country, all over the world. There's a solar thing and a light. It's ridiculous. So let's pick a park and let's say we want it in this park pilot program. Tell us why you can't do it. We're the city of New York and you can't do it. It's just mind boggling.
I think that's legit, because we wrote about it.
Did we write in the
Yeah.
South?
Yeah, we wrote that.
Great, I
We
mean,
want it.
Well, let's
It's
just
in
pick
the Penn
one.
South Playground letter.
Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
we've got-
There. Yeah.
Under, are we picking, then you're picking Penn South.
I mean, I don't think we have to. I think we can ask like what ACES did for security cameras, right? They said we would like security cameras in PS 33, PS 111, but I think we can do the same for solar lighting. We want solar lighting at. Penn
I
Central.
just wanna make it, we need a win. And I rather, like, we've been through this, and when, like Jesse said, and you said, when we're really specific, things start, because they can
Yes.
address it. If we said we want solar lighting in all parks.
Yeah, what do you guys think? What does everyone think?
Which
Go
part?
ahead.
There is a park, Chelsea Park, that allow the sports league actually utilize, and they have the stadium side lighting that just blinds you as you go by, and it's bigger.
And they're diesel.
And yes, so that would be a great one to use as a panel, because they literally use the entire field, half of it is for soccer, the other half is for volleyball. I played with leaf from volleyball there, and you can smell the lights when it's running at night. So the winter time at 4 o'clock, we have to run this, and there's 2 on one side, 2 on the other side, and they look like stadium light. They will light up the whole entire block.
I'm sure it's my son's football letter, and they have a solar version of the generators.
They used to
And
say
it has batteries in it, so it runs the light. And then it also has diesel.
We have it on record asking.
Literally, I
Don't
took
allow me anywhere else.
No, we can't. Where is that, Brian?
I mean, you can listen, I'm not gonna argue. I don't think anybody else will really argue with me either. I mean,
Have we written about the bathrooms in each individual?
Yeah, we haven't heard about the bathrooms in each individual bathroom.
well, I mean, I have to go back and I can't confirm
Yes.
that or not. Yeah, and like, it's been on there for so long, I have to go back and see if we actually have written letters on each of those.
Have we
you
read
know?
about the sidewalk? I think it's just, maybe we have,
I'm just saying, if you're picking, I'm just saying you've never, I mean, if you wanna say you wanna do a pilot project and here's someone. Maybe in these following parks. you wanna
Okay.
say-
I'd rather not say following, I'd say like try everyone, because Steve said it's not him, please help me do it. He said he would love to do
can we put those 2 parks?
it.
What you say?
I think if you wrote it in that letter, that's the one we have to use.
That's what I was saying.
Just be, that way there's no like, we did the right thing. Then we could write it in every parks letter, which we do, we say we want green energy, we want green groundwater, we want,
Well,
you know,
so
permeable.
if you say, I don't know, do you say that? I mean, if we say that, then I don't think that's a too hard stretch.
Did we say what? Did we say?
Well, rather you're saying that.
You're saying
moving
moving forward.
past letters that you said you wanted green energy and past park letters.
And in fact, this was it was in that last letter.
I think it's safer to start with the letter that you
Pens out
have
playground?
written in,
Exactly.
and then you can go farther.
In the future ones we had.
Right, I think that's a safe bet.
Okay, is everyone okay with
I
that?
made a motion.
Yeah, no, you don't need to, I'll just
Yeah, we're
take,
fine, we're fine.
Just be sure that you say solar plus storage,
right,
not just solar, solar plus.
Yeah, we can figure out the language, but that's the new capital.
the new capital.
The
act.
question is, where does that fall in terms of your priorities?
Yeah, so we have 3 new asks. Well, no, 2, sorry, because the public bathroom in Penn South is now going. The Chelsea, we don't have to add this. Do we want to do the Chelsea Dog Park renovation now that we found them a place and it's kind of just an asphalt place? Do we want to say, hey, listen, because we have asked for a small, big dog park. They don't have they didn't have the budget. They just kind of threw it together. Do we want to make that into a nice dog
I'm
park?
gonna say, let's focus on the humans issue.
Yeah, that's.
Very much.
That's kind of my.
Do you have a Chelsea
Spent a lot
park?
of time, they've got a new park, would be for next year, and then,
But we
you know,
But just so we can put it on the list low, just that it's on there so they see it, and then, believe me, a lot of things on this list have been there for years.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It doesn't hurt.
you can make it continued support too, if you wanted to.
Yeah,
But, if there, is there already a Chelsea Park item? Do we have a separate Chelsea Park item?
Sidewalk.
Need a sidewalk.
We do,
No.
but that's parks.
Well, it used to be, but then I had a look.
but this is a parks request.
No, I know, I mean, it used to be on the budget, just like. It was on there, and then they did a big renovation of that playground,
Yeah, I think we took it out.
and then I think it was by, yeah.
Like, for instance, there's one, if you guys look at the parks list, if you look almost 3 ways down, 3/4 down, it says, install a new elevator from the lobby to the mezzanine. I don't suggest we put that, we haven't even heard about, I don't think we know anything about that. Though I know they put it on their list, it might be something we want to look at in the future, I don't even, but.
Alright, so to go back to the thing that we all do agree on, which is the solar power lighting in Penn South.
Penn South Playground.
Where do you, I think,
Well,
if you wanted us to put it at the bottom of your list, or do you want to put it somewhere ranked up?
so let's see, does everyone agree we're gonna keep our environmental ask, the top ask? Okay, yes, okay. Second we have here is a DeWitt Clinton. We've been asking for that for a very long time. And Parks has it as their top request. Do we keep it there or do we switch something below it? like maybe bathrooms are more important, maybe we put bathrooms up there, or do we keep that top, or do we put the solar lights up there? What does what are everyone's thoughts on that?
I think we should probably keep it where it is. I mean, this does say this project is partially funded, so, I mean, there's money that's in this that they need to actually close out, so. I mean, to me, it seems like they need a little extra.
Running
to
for
get
a
that done.
politician to be like, hey, I got the shore power, look, and now I got, I mean, we're keeping our top two there, they're already saying they're successful. But I'll
Well,
go,
I haven't, DeWitt Clinton Park is not been, I mean, we need renovation at DeWitt Clinton Park.
All right, so
Sure,
we're leaving.
yeah, I'm just saying this note here, it says this project is partially funded, which is great, but they can't do anything with the money, the money's just sitting there until.
Yeah,
fully
until
funded. So,
they can't
I
do
think
something
we-
until it's fully
Yes, I think we
funded.
should just keep it as a high priority.
In fact, that can be in our language. There's already money allocated,
Yeah.
partial money allocated to this, it's done, like.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that, but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, so we keep it,
I
okay,
think you keep here's my suggestion.
yep,
You move, I mean, unless someone feels very differently, you can, if the lighting thing is that important, you can shift down the, Gutenberg playground.
I think the lighting is important, I think it's a small
And
aspect,
solar storage lighting.
yep.
yeah.
I think what
that's
Brad
okay.
says is
Yeah.
entirely valid, I think we put it instead of Gutenberg.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Well, not instead, you just move it down.
Sorry,
You just
right,
move it
right,
down.
yes,
Well, yeah,
spot,
yeah,
yeah,
you're saying in spot,
Yes.
okay, that's fine.
Don't forget to
Okay.
put it in as solar lighting with battery backup.
With storage,
Yeah, with storage.
Mhm.
It
Got it.
has to be said in one breath.
Yeah.
got it, okay, so this is what we're doing, 1, cruise terminal, 2, DeWitt Clinton, 3. We'll keep it. The everything else, 3 is the same, electric vehicles, but that's not, I don't think that's technically our ask, but we supported it, right, Jesse? 4 was the bathrooms. 5 is now solar lighting instead of, instead of the place. So do we push down Gutenberg just 1, or do we want, is there anything, do you think that McCafferty Playground, dog run at DeWitt Clinton, does that surpass that this year, the Gutenberg Playground?
I mean, retaining a sidewalk doesn't seem to have great benefit as a playground renovation with new safety service, spray shower. I mean, McCaffrey seems to be a much bigger project that would have
Yeah.
a bigger benefit than a repaving. But I don't know the Gutenberg playground sidewalk condition as well.
And I think
But it
we,
seems somewhat,
well, I think the thought process was, we thought it was gonna be a small ask
Yeah.
and a wing. Like, how much can it be, just
Right.
replace the,
yeah.
obviously, if you're asking to renovate McCaffrey Playground, that's gonna be a long process, but it's, right, but it still is not.
I mean, I don't think, if anybody doesn't see any major reason to reshuffle what you've already got.
No, I think we
it's fine.
I think it's fine.
Right.
I would, and Greta, I think we should ask and put it out there now, Chelsea Park. The Chelsea Dog Park renovation, we have the DeWitt Clinton one.
Have we received, mostly a Jesse question, any feedback on the park since it is opened, or has the council member, do we have any public feedback on the park? I have no dogs, I have no idea, it's.
Oh, the dog run?
Yeah.
I don't think we have.
I saw that, I think there was, you know what, Chelsea, News did an article and interviewed a lot of people about it.
And would it, and the, concerns were consistent with what you're recommending there?
Yeah, I mean, it was, when I was talking to, someone from, who did the article, they said there was not one negative, it was, I mean, when I say negative,
Yeah.
there could be improvements, but meaning the switch from where it was in Penn South Playground, so there wasn't one negative.
Were there recommendations for improvements, like the water, the separation of maintenance?
I think they asked for that at the beginning, we asked for it in a letter. I don't know if they keep asking for it, I know it was included in our letter, and we talked about the separation and what, and I think we also talked about paint the bat, there was a few things. I don't think they did much, but I think.
Yeah, I just thought of your capital.
Okay.
Add it to the bottom of your capital, so
Okay.
it's in there, and,
Okay,
see what they say.
okay. Great. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, let's go to expense. We really don't have many expenses, so this is gonna be very quick. Well, let's see it. So this is from last year. So this is parks, the need for park staff. I think this has always been a big ask and concern and a need for the community. Just park staff to opening, closing, bathroom, I mean, they need more park staff. I don't see this, that expense getting switched for anything else unless there's other thoughts here in the room and on Zoom. I think the organics, which was on.
Something crazy. I know Jesse knows. Has there ever been a thought to privatize them?
You know, remember we talked about this with the squash?
Can we get through the expense?
Maybe it could be discussed where every line item says, we don't have the money, we don't have the staff, it's on every one. And say, well, in this case, can we talk about our local community giving money to give them some extra help in our park? And we could say it differently. So can we have a pilot program that takes some of our big time Google and the rest in our neighborhood with that, and let's say the cruise ship people, and that they can contribute to a fund to help get this, because we're not getting it from the government.
I definitely.
That doesn't exist. The Parks Department does have a nonprofit organization that you can donate to.
So I'm just saying, maybe we could bring that up and say,
I think we can do that on our committee.
Yes.
I think we can, I would love to explore that, because I think that's big. I just don't know if we can do it as a budget ask right now. We can't.
Well, I mean, you can, but you're, again, it's like, we're putting the cart before the horse. You
Yeah.
Be specific in what you're saying. I think you want to pick, I think, just like Brad was saying before, you pick a specific park and say, this park has always needed this.
Yeah.
We should really, why,
that's what I'm getting at, like literally that part and
I
say.
understand that. It's something to do that.
We would have
The
to
first time you're doing
that.
that in a budget request is not gonna be, I think, the right way. I think you want to run.
And we talked to Steve and have them come and say, what is the process, and
Yeah, $100 to go into all of these projects.
Yeah.
If there's a.
okay, let's keep going. I mean, there's good news here too. The second one was provide a comprehensive and healthy organics collection and infrastructure. I think we could take this off the list or move it all the way up, because now we are getting, I mean, you see these compost bins all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty damn good. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, yes, we would like one maybe placed in a park, a bigger, but I really think it shouldn't be a priority when we have all these now organic bins and a great app in our district.
I don't
Yes.
have that. Do you, what number is that?
I have it 2.8. It was our second. And it was number 8 overall.
Expense. You're in.
Expense.
Not an expense.
I'm also an expense, I don't see.
Oh, I have it online. Maybe it was, maybe, you know what?
To who is it?
It might have been, no, you know what it might have been? It might have been a technically an Lisa's request.
So is sanitation now?
It was to sanitation.
So you guys do sanitation.
Now we-
No, you do it before too.
We were talking.
This one.
Yeah, we did apologize.
Sanitation are gonna get a lot of attention, and I don't wanna make sure we don't just.
Yeah,
Ignore.
that's what we did.
Two committees, but I think the other guys do.
The organic part.
sanitation.
But
Okay.
I think you guys can discuss if you want to take it off or not, I guess. We won't touch it.
So
So,
now I gotta push everything over to you.
yeah,
Yeah, back to ACES.
yeah. Then it's gonna come back to us after this.
I mean, like 1 year. we don't
Our
have
third
to-
one, which is now our second.
About though, that we were gonna keep it the same for this particular year, and then we would pick up sanitation the next year.
Yes, we're not picking that now. Yeah. But we did write because we did have, in this committee, we had an organics letter.
Okay.
I think we had 2, something.
Yeah.
We had 2, okay. So the third is, so this has been, this is actually, there've been a lot of talk about this on community councils, and I think we should keep this. It's park enforcement. So we talked about also with Steve about Penn South Playground with the fences going down or up. Parks enforcement has to come in there and like get a lot of these people who have been sleeping there overnight. It's been a little dangerous, you know, to get them out before the kids come in. I would think unless it's there, they have it there as their second. I guess we keep that. Again, please chime in if anyone has any disagreement here. The next, which I think is an easy win, I don't know why they don't, is the Playground Associates. That stays.
That's the same thing as ours, yeah.
Yep, same. And then we don't have what they have, the Green Thumb staff.
That's new, yeah.
That's
not-
new.
no.
And the forestry staff is new.
So, I mean, I do think it is relatively new, but I think it connects with what our last one is.
They have it too here.
Which is the pruning,
Yep,
you know, so I think,
they have it as two separate. I don't know if that means anything.
I think as I see it as staff and then, I guess they break it up from forestry to pruning, because pruning is on a different cycle, right? Pruning is on a 7-year cycle.
Yes, 7, yep,
Um,
yep. Okay, so can we put the Green Thumb staff
I
or
was gonna
just?
say, let's modify, because they're asking, let's give some.
Yeah, we'll put it in there. Yeah, I'll do
You guys
the.
are, that's what I would say.
Okay. Can we do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's up to your decision. You're getting input directly from the agency.
Yeah.
I will say, the nice thing about parks is it's one of the few agencies that come to the list. That says,
And then-
every other agencies will tell you everything's fine, everything's perfect, well, the house is behind
That's
that.
simple, but you know,
Yeah.
simple.
Okay, so.
Can I ask a question about Playground Associates? Can I ask you a question about Playground Associates?
Sorry, Elmer?
Can I ask a question about Playground Associates?
Yeah, of
Is-
course.
Is the design of the Penn South Playground such that there cannot be a playground associate there because there's no office for them to be in?
No, so these are, I say kids, mostly high school, young college students. They come in the summer. I think it actually goes spring to fall, in the warmer months, where they kind of, if they're paid like $20,000, maybe, you know, not a lot, Marty, to do like tango in the park. Let's do yoga on this day. It's not, I don't think it's it's not like a full-time consistently maintained position.
But can the park send someone to a place that A, doesn't have a bathroom and B, doesn't have a room for them to be in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
They're doing programming.
yeah, it's like programming.
I heard, I seem to remember something different, but I go with your wisdom.
That, to
We
my
can ask-
understanding, that's full-time staff, but we can certainly confirm.
Marty, they asked for it in theirs. It's almost like, do we want to move that one up? Because we have parks and they take a long time to renovate, but we would get a lot more traction if there was more programming.
Well, it's gonna be moved up to 3 automatically because we're taking out organics. Well, we think is gonna take out organics. So it's gonna be moved up to 3 automatically. And then we're gonna add 4 is gonna be the Green Thumb staff, right, as Parks suggested on their list? No, any other comments to finish? We have new business to go over, which is gonna be hopefully not lengthy, but I wanna finish this up. If this is okay with everybody, I can tweak the language as we discussed, but I think we're pretty much on a good track. Marty, any wrap-up comments for the budget?
I think it's great. And don't forget, we do this again next year so we can fix our mistakes. But I don't think there are any. I think you did a nice job.
Okay, I think we're good. Anyone else? Great. Last thing, what am I doing? Old business, new business.
1%.
Marty, yeah, so I watched the meeting from last month. I apologize again that I couldn't be here. And I know Adam was here from New Yorkers for Parks about the supporting letter for 1% of the budget goes to parks. And unfortunately, I wasn't here because if I was here, I would have said that we actually have precedent with it. There's a precedent with this. We have history. And I happen to know this because I wrote it in the budget task force letter that was a response to the mayor's preliminary budget. And we do say that we want 1%. We said, listen, you have promised in your campaign 1% for parks. We expect you to keep that promise.
But that's different than getting behind a non-for-profit.
But we,
That's
so
what I'm
I heard your,
It's different.
I heard your argument and I hear what you're saying, but we get behind nonprofits all the time,
No, we do not.
all the time.
I have never been in this board, and I've sat with JD on many, where he stood up and he goes, we cannot, I don't mind the idea, but we as a board cannot support things like that.
So
I've seen him argue for years.
ACES just wrote a letter supporting new federal theater. We wrote a letter for Katie's Litter Legion to be funded. We have done it over and over. These are all nonprofits that we did it with the Atlantic Theater on 50.
So it sounds like ACES does it a lot, but I've never done it here.
Yeah, but wait, it's important to say that we're not writing a letter supporting an NGO. We're writing a letter that says we believe there should be 1% for parks. It has nothing to do with the NGO.
Yeah, no, and we have, and just so you know, we're on the record as saying, we already
What I'm
said.
saying is, I agree with, as a board, we're saying we like this because you made a campaign statement. That's different than saying we support this other organization that supports 1% all parks.
But I think we partner with nonprofits a lot in promoting what we want. I mean, check peds is listed in letters a lot. They're not, all in transportation
You don't
letters.
even have to name them as a
No,
organization.
I think the solve today is that we don't name them as.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And then we can have this conversation.
Yes, 1%.
About what we.
Okay, is that okay? If we
No,
can just-
I totally agree, that's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's the difference for me.
The best letter I can imagine is the one that Leslie just articulated, quoting the previous statement that she made in the budget, whatever it was the last time she did it, however many years ago it was last year sometime. That is exactly the wording. It has nothing to do with the NGO. It's just reasserting our position on 1% for parks. And it's a real shame that the city isn't doing 1% for parks. You see it in the way they're maintained. You see it in the stuff that we were just talking about with program associates in various parks. I'm all for writing a letter that says, God damn it, give us the 1%.
All right, yes, is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Quote me.
You want to write the letter? I'll write it. Okay.
No, it's your words.
I'll do it. Sure.
I don't want to say anything, but Marty told me privately, he was looking, we should get some gondolas over here now. He wants long-term planning.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What is it I told you privately?
Yeah.
We're so close.
We're so close. Okay, Chris, I just want to give some updates on your business. I watched the meeting and I know Chris brought up about naming a section of the park, Hell's Kitchen Park over name it for a gentleman who had 3 sons, hockey players in Hell's Kitchen. And the father did a lot to bring hockey and street hockey to Hell's Kitchen. So I did inquire to Parks about it, and I will, read Steve's response. I wish Chris was here, but, I'm sure he'll see it later. So this is what he said. The process, for naming a section of the park is basically the same as naming for the whole park. The commissioner only approves renamings in extraordinary cases. If you are proposing or supporting a suggested change, you should pass a resolution with a detailed explanation as why there is a compelling case. They need background material, significant community support, letters of support from the borough president, the council members, so it's a big, long process. So I will tell Chris this, but I wanted, just so the committee knows that, I think he had a great idea. I would welcome him to present, and, gather all these materials. And he can present on it and we can listen to it and then we can write a letter of support or not, and then it can go to the chain that Parks is outlining for us. Sure.
There's a tree outside the park.
Yeah.
Can a plaque be put on that?
I don't
And
know.
that's not changing the park name, but there's,
Yeah, I know that's a good point. You mean like an official from Parks
yes, we do see some trees, you say this.
or a bench, like
This bench was,
paid, but usually paid for by,
well,
or
I'm just saying, maybe this is a way for Chris to get the recognition in the name and might be easier.
I can ask Steve. Okay.
I think that's a really good idea for a number of reasons. I've been in too many hospitals in the last week or so, and they have, in every hospital, they have that wall with all the plaques on them of different people. Instead of raising an important person's name to the entire park or section of the parks, there should be a place in a park where a number of people can be honored, not just that one.
A tribute board.
They have that in Matthews.
I was gonna say Matthews.
Yeah.
They have that, it's on private property, so parks, I don't think had any jurisdiction over it, but it's on the north wall up above the handball court, I guess.
The best part about that is a woman called me months ago, said, my name is on that, and I have no clue why.
Really?
It's nice though.
You're an important person.
I find out why, and I could not find out.
So I think the best bet is, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting idea and should be explored. I know in that particular case, the owner of that building gave permission to put that up there.
Yeah. Maybe we could do the same. There is a Hell's
Yeah,
Kitchen Park
right there.
building right
Building's
there.
right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last thing, very last thing. Parks, Steve, informed me, I don't know if you remember in our letter about Penn South Playground that, so Councilmember Botcher would like another redo of the plans for Penn South Playground. He would like to add a second basketball court. However, they're gonna fit that in. So in our letter, we said, if this is the case, we want Parks to come back and show us the revised plan. So Parks, the good, friendly neighbors they are coming in November to show us a new plan.
But we had also asked them for short hoops on the other side.
I put that in the letter, there is, they said there was short hoops on the.
Little for toddlers, little round things. I'm talking basketball hoops that are lower. And they said they have no problem doing that.
Yeah, they agreed that they could possibly.
Okay, so you know what, when we write letter to Steve,
Yeah.
before he comes, we're just gonna make sure that
Flag
they're
that.
coded, flag it.
Yeah, Google they just adjust. Up and down, I don't know.
They do, but they break lots of this one, they just make instead of a 10-footer, they do a 6-foot.
No, I understand, but, you know,
Okay, so,
Guys like me can dunk.
yeah.
can we, do we have to make a motion to adjourn if there's no quorum, or do I just say goodbye, everybody?
You never.
You need a motion.
All right, take care, Marty.
Thank you
Bye,
very
Marty.
much, friends. Have a nice evening.
Got a lot done, and